Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines AEW review as I immediately see myself peak on my audio. Well done me, I did that way too loud. My name is Matt Mayer aka Imp and I'm joined by One Nation Radio's James Boyd once again. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing good. I thought that was a really, really good show last night with a great match, a very great match, and another match that was also damn good. So it's a lot different from the last time I was on the show. Definitely.
Oh yes. Last time James was here, we had to actually talk a bit negatively about AEW, which is that's super rare. And
yeah, kinda.
It's nice to once again be back in the warm embraces of a competent wrestling show. Also, because it is Royal Rumble week, I have been watching WWE a little bit. When it was on, when I had Vance Morris on from Chairshot Radio on Tuesday to do the bad and the ugly state of WWE and AEW. One of the things I was saying is how the WWE product just doesn't engage me, and I was like, aside, this is the worst week to be saying this because it's Royal Rumble week, so it's the one week I am engaged quite actively. It's the most I'm on the WWE network as I'm watching old Rumbles. So it was not the week to be saying that. It's like, no, yeah. Normally not engaged. Just ignore this week when I'm really, I always get excited for Rumble. Anyway, but with AEW, it was quite cathartic to do the show with Vance because as we're talking about all the negatives, getting them off of our chests, just to see the future. Because when you do that, you realise they are making quite big steps forward, and this show is another step for me, especially in the gradual crowning and putting over of their four pillars, slowly getting there. The gradual rise of Adam Cole from the criticism seen before, so they're not using him and do anything with it. And I'm just like, I swear they're building to him versus Paige at Revolution. Am I is it just me? I feel like that's directly what they've been doing, but because they're not, saying or they're not interacting every single week, it doesn't jump there. No, they've told you he's number one on the list and he's facing Lance Archer. What do you think happens next? They've told you what you need to know that is going to happen. And say with Sammy versus Cody, where they told you enough that it was pretty blatant that Sammy was going to win, but did it in such a way where you could Cody it. So I love the doubt. You tell us you're going to do it, but then you put a bit of doubt in there, even though you have told us. But you just sow that doubt. We are going to be talking about the ladder match first, because yes, I know Danhausen is doing numbers. We'll get to Danhausen next. It's crazy. Like I think his debut has got more numbers on the AW channel than Sammy's cutter, which is. That says everything for a guy where the other conversation has been like, who? Who's this Danhausen? And such a conversation building off of, well, why are they bringing a guy like that when you got so many amazing talents who are about to become available within the next few days? And then you use Danhausen in the spot. And I was just like, do realise we're talking this much about a guy who was hiding under the ring holding a chair and then pulled a face and disappeared. And you're getting this much reaction from it. Like, for me, that is the genius of Danhausen. Maybe genius is a bit strong. The evil genius of Danhausen. The very nice, very evil genius.
That's it right there. Yeah. Evil genius.
But just get ready for him. If you've not watched Ring of Honor and you've not seen him on the indies, get ready. For me, I love a bit of fun and a bit of comedy in my wrestling, and Danhausen brings a lot of fun. He's so quick-witted. Somebody proposed the idea of him on commentary for Rampage alongside Taz. I was just like, oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh my god.
I'd love that.
Like, because Taz ain't a hater, like, if Taz were a hater, it would work out better because he'd just be a curmudgeon. Like, I don't want to see Danhausen, like, it'd be cool because Taz can make anything work. But the idea of Danhausen and Jim Ross is better because Jim Ross is a hater.
Yeah.
And Jim Ross is an old curmudgeon old guy. Like Taz is like, whatever works is whatever works, man. So yeah, I'm with you. That would be hilarious. It would be hilarious.
And it's it's awesome. I realised I said we were going to talk about Sammy, then I just mentioned Danhausen and we just couldn't stop. We'll get to it. So the ladder match with the question of, was this the greatest cutter we've ever seen? For me, it's a spot where you see similar kind of try to escalate what they can do on ladders, but this time the ladders played ball. They could actually do it. Both men were pretty damn sturdy on top of those ladders, able to springboard off properly. Cody also making it look amazing as well. The timing was perfect. The flights that we got, the torque and the spin, it just, oh my word, it just looked absolutely incredible. And even casual saw it, because I think it might be because Barstool put a thing out, just going, oh my god, what an amazing cutter. And then you just see the reactions of non-wrestling fans going, what an RKO! Oh, what an amazing RKO! And you know what? People are enjoying it. I'm not going to nerd out. It's fine. This is an absolutely amazing spot. But yeah, what did you make of the cutter, James?
I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best like RKO cutters, whatever you want to call it. I still the execution of it is what put it over the top for me more than like the setup, because like once I saw the way the ladder set up, I was like, oh, he's gonna like leap and do a cutter off of that, and that's exactly what he did. But like the way that it looked was so spectacular still. So like when people, you know, like you're doing like, is the greatest cutter ever? I mean, it's definitely in discussion. I think the one for me that would always hold out for me, because it came out of basically out of nowhere so much, literally, because of Orton, is like the WrestleMania 31 one with where he turns the Seth Rollins curb stomp in the opener into the pop up RKO. Like that floored me for like days. I could not believe. And quite honestly, like that's the last great WrestleMania we've had since. So it's like I held it in like such a bit of a nostalgic charm to it as well. But yeah, as far as like the level of difficulty, like they're both very high, because like he has to get there. You know, the apparatus and the ladders were so tall, and where by apparatus I mean like the thing that's holding the belts. Is so like close to the middle ladder and everything. Like, you know, like earlier in the match you had the superplex where Sammy's leg ends up clipping that thing. So like there's a bunch of moving parts in it that add to the level of difficulty. So like it was absolutely sensational. It really was. It's one of the best spots you're going to see all year.
And to say that there were so many other crazy spots, like the first bump off the ladder was a superplex and it was executed perfectly.
Right.
Felt brutal.
Yep.
There was also the crossroads off of the ladder as well. Sammy Guevara wisely not doing the Ibushi bump. Ibushi would have landed. We've seen him take the crossroads from an elevated height. That absolutely crazy man would have made it look absolutely devastating. It's still an insane bump to be taken, given what you got to be doing. But,
yeah, because like I mean, got to think what Sammy's doing in this situation. Like he's leaning back and he's twirling off of a ladder. And the way that Cody and Sammy are both leaning, where the ref is on the other side, like, you know, the ladder, you know, the way that the ref has to spot the ladder also ties into whether or not like they over rotate or under rotate as well. Like, so yeah, it was that was also crazy button to take when you're also blind and you don't know when you're going to fall when impact is necessarily coming. It was just also like why it was so crazy that Sammy took that in the Stadium Stampede, took that one wing angel off the top of the tunnel through Jaguar Stadium through the mat, because like it's like you can say yeah he's cushioned, but like he's facing up towards the sky. He doesn't know when impact is actually coming. He just has to hope and pray and be braced for like seconds, a bunch of terrifying seconds. So yeah, like it was same thing here, because like that's not no inflatable thing that he's falling through. Like it's wood and with padding over the top of it. So it was you know, Sammy super impressive and a daredevil and a crazy person, definitely.
And the big drop as well, where Sammy got the biggest ladder in the arena, climbed up about 12 feet and slowly dove off for a senton, and as he flips round, ladder no breaky just completely talks him round. It's like, my god. That looked painful as hell, just a whiplash on that.
You know what that was, right?
Yes.
you know how people the ism. Definitely.
I can't do anything. I'm holding hot chocolate. It's a cold British night.
So, you know, we saw him do that in the match with the Inner Circle versus American Top Team in what is it called? I can't remember what Scorpio and Ethan Page's team is. I forgot the name of the team. Men of the Year. That's right, Men of the Year. So he did that there. So I thought, you know, once he actually did the senton, I was actually relieved, because I thought that Cody was going to roll out the way. And he was going to eat nothing but ladder. And again, I was like, you're insane, because he loves doing stuff with on top of ladder bridges, like the multiple matches with or a couple of matches with Darby from beginning of 2020 he did 450s off of the top rope through a ladder bridge, or on top of Darby on a ladder bridge. So it's like he likes doing spots on ladder bridges. So I thought he was going to elevate himself and try to break his neck, and I'm glad he did not.
Yes, 100%. Because one thing that I took from this match was they didn't like immediately jump in with the ante high as hell. Like, they weren't diving at each other from the go. Like, we started off with a relatively lengthy sequence of wrestling in a ladder match. Then that escalated into more of a walk and brawl, and then they got into the ring and hit the superplex. Like, every one of these spots, it wasn't like bang, 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 car crash showcase. Everyone was earned and built from one thing to the other. They gave time for each one to kind of, the pain for it to get over, for them to go for the next climb and attempt or whatever. Like, it wasn't a while until we got our first ladder spot. Or just for someone to be hit by a ladder. It took like 5-7 minutes. It wasn't until after the brawl where someone got hit by a ladder, never mind doing your first spot on it. And personally, I really like that. Especially for a singles match. It just, everything became deserved rather than, it's a ladder match, let's get into the crazy spots. It's like, no.
Right. And there's always multiple ways to do it, but I tend to like the ones that are mostly like the action escalates to, and then the violence escalates and the spots escalate, and then you get a winner, as opposed to like let's forget the first part and just go straight to Act 2, and we're basically doing Act 2 for like the first 2/3 of the match. Like, you kind of get tired because there's only so many times you can do car crash spots and violence with the same weapon over and over before you get tired. Like, I know it's Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette, it has outdated views on life and society and pro wrestling, but he does have some truisms, and one of them is like, you use a weapon, you get about a certain number of them, and then after that is diminishing returns. I think he said with like kendo sticks or chairs, like 7 strikes or whatever. So like, when you save the ladder spots for the for the last half, as opposed to like get straight into it, if it makes it more worthwhile. And I thought they did a great job with it. Like, I think it's easily the second best match in AEW so far this year. Like, to be honest with you, I think this is Cody's best match in AEW. I know people will gas. I know people will gas and say it's blasphemy to say otherwise for the to say not the Cody match with his brother Dustin, where Dustin bleeding buckets, but like, that didn't grab me or entertain me in that way. Like, I thought that was a great wrestling match that had someone bleed buckets in it. I really wasn't concerned that much for Dustin's well-being in that way. Like, I know it's fake, get up, but with this one, like, I tip my hat off to him. This is the reason why, like, Cody always frustrates me so much, because like, I know there's a good wrestler in there, but I think that he likes to put so much goofiness into his matches that like, he always messes up the equation. Like, he puts too much in there, like a dash too much, or the whole half a bottle too much of the stuff, and it's sometimes can be a disaster. But this one, like, he was able to show some restraint. Like, he only had one nonsensical run in this time with Fuego. Outside of that, pitch perfect. That was unnecessary, but it was only one, and we were able to get past that.
Also, I was going to talk about the kind of a Fuego moment, and maybe like this match overall. Sonny Mendes, when he brought Fuego, Thunder Rosa posted a picture of it was her with the pose popping her butt out, turning around in fishnets, but next to it is Fuego del Sol also doing that. It's really funny. Really got me. just scrolling through Twitter, and I was like, is that Fuego? It just really made me laugh. Anyway, I thought the Fuego spot for me, it's a nice little kind of, just to make sure Sammy definitely gets the massive cheer and Cody starts slowly to get more and more boos throughout the match. Just have him beat up the friend. It's just, and I don't know if it's like a small character moment as well, as he's more willing to do a more out-and-out heel thing in a match. As in, he's not heel, but when push comes to shove, he will do the thing as he starts to feel more and more desperate in that attempt to win.
I mean, I guess, but like, ultimately, like, Cody did nothing wrong. Like, it's a no DQ match. He used the ladder on Sammy's leg because Sammy's using his legs to kick his ass. So he's cutting him off. Like, it's a legal ladder match. And then Fuego comes out and gets involved in it to stop the action. I'm like, yeah, Cody, kick his ass, get the fuck out of here. He did nothing wrong. Cody, look, Cody has done lots of bad babyface stuff over the time where it's like, why would you need to do that? But like, it's babyface versus babyface, and whatever. He's the bigger babyface. He's bullying the smaller guy, which is what got Darby over to start. He's doing the same thing with Sammy. And to be quite honest with you, like Cody, middleweight bully is like the best Cody so far in AEW. Like he's tapping into that. Fuego comes out for no reason. Yeah, kick his ass. Get the fuck out of here. I'm with it. Like Cody did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong in this situation.
Judo Master comes
Arn
flying.
should have handled it. Arn should have got the Glock.
Arn should have got the Glock. Swat the Judo Master with a crowbar. If you get the reference, awesome. But yeah, it was absolutely amazing ladder match. High on the crazy, low on the antics, which kind of feel like really helps when it comes to a Cody match. And I mean, technically, I could put the same. I think that for me, that's why the Andrade match, as much as I enjoyed it with the flaming table in it, as much as I enjoyed that, there was also the antics in there, and that was very high on the crazy, but also high on the antics. And I feel like if this was a much better balance. And
the antics in that flaming table spot had nothing to do with anything. Like, why is Brandy here? Why is Brandy setting a fire? What happened between Andrade and Cody to escalate to where this match needs a flaming table? Like they've touched each other like twice ever.
Yeah.
no one's family got beat up. No one's teammates got beat up. It was kind of odd that he just went straight to that. But he was in that love me mode. So I'll go to the flaming table. It's like I prefer if you didn't. Look at your back. Look at his back now. His back is permanently like that.
And it was one of those moments for me where I was just extremely hyped just to see a flaming table. I almost didn't mind the context. I was like, "This is a flaming table on TNT television. Like, this is awesome." Yeah. Anyway, absolutely incredible opener to the show, and like a high point on the show, because I feel like there was a lot of expectation for the main event. Where, in the sense of, even though there isn't a lot of hype going into it storyline wise, it's a lights out match, and AEW have really protected these matches to the point
that's true
where they make sure these aren't just no DQ matches. This is a lights out match, and we've come to expect certain things with lights out, and that's probably why this match didn't hit that well for a lot of people, because it wasn't anywhere near that bar. It wasn't anywhere near as violent. Yeah, there was Orange Cassidy get his hand kicked in by the steps, and there was the blood there, but there was never it wasn't an escalation as violence as we've seen in Lights Outs before. The stunts became more dangerous, as we've seen in Ladder Cole matches in the past. The amazing ending of Orange Cassidy hugging Cole with a "we're going down together, buddy," just dragging him down, which I really enjoyed that as final spot. Just if Adam Cole's going to lose his first singles match in any way, just like, no, I'm fine with that. I'm fine. It was great.
Yeah. I thought it was. I watched it twice now. So my first viewing, I thought like, yes, it's a good match. I'm kind of bored, and then they had the run-ins, like but I was like, I was kind of bored at bits, right? Like basically from the time you get to, I want to say by the time you get to the metal cup that's spiked with with thumbtacks, kind of where like right before then I kind of was like, all right, we're going to closing stretch, but all right, but yeah. So the second time watching it, like it's a better match on rewatch. But yeah, like I'm somewhere like in the 3.5 range. And be quite honest with you, like when I think of like specialty matches and death matches or no DQ match, whatever you want to call them, like an average match is like a 4.5 match when you have those kind of stipulations. So like Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy, like I think they're good, like leaving it where it is right now, and like the feud was already won by Cole in much the same way that like the Jericho and MJF feud had already been won by MJF, where like they've wrestled multiple times. He won all of them but one. The babyface wins the last one. They can move on, and it's kind of nice in that way. They tie the bow on and then go back to it if they want to. But I kind of like the way they do this in AEW with like when they want to protect a heel because they have more plans for them. They just have to reheat them up, have to take the one loss. Like MJF's really good at that, where he takes like one loss or two losses all year, and he always rebounds because like he's about to get back everything he lost. So yeah, the hug, Adam Cole's is ridiculous. Like, he gets hugged. He looks up. He realizes that he's being hugged, and then all of a sudden you see his arms and his arms, like he puts his arms together like he's being handcuffed. I was like, that's not how bear hugs work, Adam. What are you doing? Free yourself. And then Orange looks down at the, at the floor or the ramp, and like Cole looks. He's like, no, don't do it. I'm like, yeah, don't do it. Why are you both about to fall off this thing? You're going to kill yourselves. Luckily, they fall through it and Orange wins. But where were you like Orange? What do you see for Orange after this now? Like, because obviously they had to give him a match after Cole basically beat his ass throughout the whole entire program. But like, where do you see him going like by pay-per-view time?
I really don't know. I've got no idea where he could fall. I don't know if he's going to be given an opponent and be featured in some way. Because I feel Adam Cole, for me, is going to face Paige. They've told us that, essentially, without telling us.
This soon?
I feel like
this soon?
It's Revolution, so you've still got a month to go.
Yeah.
So it's not until the first week of March. So you've still got a full February to go to it. But they've started the background stuff already by letting you know in previous weeks he is the number one on there. So we already know he's number one. It's just they haven't had a segment together yet. And Hangman Page is doing his thing with Lance Archer, and that's not going to happen for 2 more weeks. So maybe you can kind of fire up Cole for just a couple of weeks, just to get him some momentum. He doesn't even have to win singles matches. If he's like convincingly scoring the fall in a multi-man, that might be fine enough just to give him a bit of momentum to then in 3 weeks' time go to Hangman Page. But that's not much of a build for Revolution.
I mean, the stuff that I see on the horizon for Revolution is like Danielson or Moxley and Danielson. Until Beach Break being lights out, I thought it was definitely going to be Page and Cole. But now I have my reservations. Like, okay, I know I know it doesn't count, but like that kind of happened with Thunder Rosa and Britt, and like I don't recall how soon she won the belt after she lost the lights out match.
Was it Double or Nothing? I want to say it was Double. The first match back with fans.
So Double or Nothing. So that's May, and then she lost lights out. When was that?
I can Google this. Rosa Baker lights out. There you go. I'm cheating. It's fine.
Because that happened to work out, but I thought.
What was it? 18th of March it was posted onto AEW's things. That's 2 months.
So basically 2 months. Like now, we're like 6 weeks out from pay-per-view. Or less than that actually. So like 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Like because I almost feels like with Cole there could be also divided attention for that with what's seems to be up upon the horizon with Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. So, we'll see. I mean, there's options like for a long time they did, or earlier in the beginning of it, like they did talk about MJF and CM Punk being a basically like a de facto number 1 contendership feud. They both said that they both wanted the title. Obviously you had the Sean Dean thing where CM Punk via DQ gave MJF his first loss of the year. He started out the year 0-1. I don't know, man. Like, there's options. There's a bunch of people that are right at the, right there. It could be Cole. It could be Punk. It could be MJF. I think. Is there? I don't know, but I think there's all good options. And they're all people that are people that you see on the horizon, opposed to like when you look at other promotions and you're like, okay, it's almost like they just basically pulled someone's name out of a hat, and they're like, there was no, built momentum for a person. Like, you guys control the outcomes of these matches. Like, give somebody some wins before they become the number 1 contender, please. They've done a better job than a lot of places.
And that's kind of why I feel like it might be Adam Cole, just because they've been telling us he's number 1, and but I don't know if Cassidy. I just realised Cassidy winning doesn't mean anything because it's a lights out match.
It doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count, but you kind of want to give it like that little bit of breathing room to where like you kind of get away from that and you kind of get a win or two under the belt before they go right back to it. That's why I asked about the time between lights out and Britt Baker winning the title from Shida.
So that was 2 months, and there's currently only 5 weeks. Also, the title match with Archer isn't for another 2 weeks, so that leaves you with 3 weeks. Well, unless Cole comes out, still, if Cole comes out immediately after the match, challenges him, that's still only 2 more weeks to kind of build to it, which isn't AEW normally like a bit more time to flesh it out a bit. They're not really a 3-week build company. If they are, it's for like something more in the mid card that isn't going to be that high up.
Yes, but I think they're also really good at they normally have things like basically like they plant seeds or lay down breadcrumbs weeks out further than 3 weeks, but like when they finally lock in and what's going to happen, normally it is around 3 weeks out. So I mean, and for all we know, it might be some weird finish in Chicago with Punk in MJF, so like they'll have to do a rematch, and then like that'll be a semi-main event match or whatever else. So yeah, I mean, they have plenty of options for to put out a good card. Like that's not going to be a problem.
Especially when like the first match, just to realize it's definitely going to be happening, is Danielson versus Moxley.
Right. Right.
Like it's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. I mean, especially as you can easily use that match to, if you give Moxley momentum, then Moxley can be the guy to challenge Hangman at Double or Nothing in a huge match, or even just on TV or whatever. Like, yeah, you've got a lot to go with. There's a lot of guys, and because MJF Punk is obviously, I don't know, he could springboard off of that into facing Paige, but I think because it's AEW, it's really then what I've learned about AEW is when they kind of tell you something, it's for a reason, so you've got the knowledge, so something doesn't feel out of nowhere. So when Adam Cole comes out next week, and they're like, oh, he just lost to Cassidy. But the week prior, they were telling you he's number 1, and then he loses a match that isn't on the rankings. Like, Adam Cole can maybe use the fact that he lost and just pretend it's like, oh, it doesn't count on the record type of thing.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Anyway, a decent main event, but given the kind of bar they've set themselves for Lights Out, it was kind of below that bar, really. Like, it was fine, it was entertaining, but it wasn't a Lights Out match.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, the two that stick out for most people for Lights Out stuff is the Full Gear 2019 thing with Omega and Moxley, and then, the Lights Out match from last year with Rosa and Britt. I mean, they've also had great ones with Janela, like Janela and Omega, where Omega's like trying to get himself impaled on Dark, of all things, and Moxley and Janela. So like they've had a few that have been just absolute kick-ass matches. This is just short of that, but like I would still say it's a very good match. But the standard is standard, and then come through to that level of what is earned. Like the same thing we talk about, like a 3.5 star Hell in a Cell match. It's like that's cool, but what are we talking about? You know, like it's Hell in a Cell. What are we doing?
It's like when we review a Dynamite and we say, oh, it's maybe like a 3.5 episode of Dynamite. We're like, but if we say it's a 3.5 episode of Raw, that means we're talking of a really high level of competency. Well done, Raw. Well done. Like, it's a very different bar when you've got a quality average. The numbers mean something vastly different, which means that if you're writing for a site or doing whatever, and you happen to give, this Dynamite is 3.5, but then you give Raw a 3 or something like that, or give it a 4, because for its own kind of world, it itself was way more competent than previous weeks. So you have to go, you know what, guys, this was way more competent than previous weeks. But on and still like a proper scale, they're still at like a 2 or 2 max. So so it's just something. And that does not translate to Twitter, because obviously C number. I was like, what do you mean Raw was better? I'm not saying Raw was better. It's in their own world. It was well done you. You were competent this week. There weren't any messed up shots or anything. The storylines made sense. You didn't ruin any momentum. Well done you. 3 stars. Anyway, speaking of building momentum, Wardlow versus Elijah Dean and James Alexander. Homeboy Wardlow destroys 2 lads in front of his family. Alexander with money shot written on his arse as Wardlow powerbombs both men to hell, and then the woman is really getting over this gimmick of destruction, and he is really building to a babyface turn. We got a bigger moment with Wardlow later in the show as they continue to tease, And I really like that in the MJF CM Punk feud is happening, they just gave us seconds to just continue to build Wardlow in the background as well. Because who knows when Wardlow's actually going to turn. I mean, again, this is AEW telling us he is going to turn, but it's going to bubble. Like, you're going to see his frustration get to a point where he's just finally had enough. But you actually see him go through the process, rather than, like, 1 week we see him pull a face, the next week he doesn't want to do something, the next week it's broken up. It's like, no, you see the emotions on his face with it. Like, he's generally deliberating over this. And he isn't. It's not just a turn out of nowhere. Yeah, I love it, And what do you make of Wardlow?
Oh, I mean, I irrationally love Wardlow. There was a good stretch of time in the beginning of AEW where like he had like almost like a year and a half streak where it was like everything he did, every match he had, like he was very good at it, or the match was very good. It was like whether it was the lumberjack match with Luchasaurus, or it was tag match with MJF, or or it was even the match from like I want to say it was like October between him and Hangman Page, where it was like like this dude, you ask him like as far as his experience, whatever else, or his body compared to the other guy, or the way his body looks compared to other guys in AEW, like he's a person that like I felt like he was almost a lot to get over, and they clearly saw something in him. Like, they wanted to push him, strong eventually. And like with MJF, like it was the perfect, Triple H Batista thing where it's like, it's coming. And like you're just sitting there, you like just count the days for it to happen, and it's been building towards it. And like when this man eventually gives him the thumbs down, it's gonna be awesome. It really is.
And essentially, you've got. I mean, I'm not going to compare Sean Spears to Ric Flair, but what I mean is he's the third person there. He's the more kind of vocal point holding it all together.
I didn't even think about that part. That's yeah. He is the accountability definitely is
I can't put that on Twitter. I can't say Sean Spears is the Ric Flair of this feud. I mean, let me phrase it. You can put it out there if you want to, but it would not be well received. And like the only thing that's going to save you is if you like you attach like two tweets to it saying like put a bunch of qualifiers and like no, I don't mean he's as good as Ric Flair, the biggest wrestler ever. No, I'm talking about the context of this and this and this feud. They have to explain everything like so. I wouldn't even bother. I'll just leave that in the drafts. So yeah, I couldn't even make the statement of how can you predict a WWE pay-per-view when there's no storylines or consequence to what's happening, and just the sheer amount of replies have just got you say what you think's going to happen in a match, then you move on to the next one. And I'm like, but what are you making that judgment on? It's just like if nothing matters, then anyone can win for any reason. There is no reasoning. The world falls apart. There's no rules. Nothing means anything.
Look, and I'm sure Vince. In the back, he hears that critique from you, and like he'll probably look you dead in the eyes and go, "Bingo." If nothing matters, then I can do whatever I want. Yeah,
anything can happen in the WWE. And that was a catchphrase when I was watching it growing up. They really put that over in the noughties. It's like anything can happen in the WWE. And I remember thinking in like the late noughties, I was like 16 or so, and I was just like, it feels very predictable now. I can't remember. I used to think, anything could happen. I remember Kurt Angle showing up in a Battle Royal when he was a Raw guy on the Smackdown when he had that championship run from 2005 into 2006. And I remember, because that was like my first year properly watching WWE, and I remember my shock seeing Kurt Angle actually show up in the Battle Royal, and I was like, it's Kurt Angle! And for me, that was huge. Whilst now, when this Raw guy shows up on SmackDown, I'm like, but this makes no sense. Like, why are they here? Is the brand split dead? Well, I mean, it's not dead, but they're here when they need it for promotion reasons, or because a plot point is half decent, or let's do a fun match, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like, okay, yeah, it definitely makes less sense just because they just do it willy nilly rather than try and explain why they're there. They're there because we need a match. So yeah.
Yeah, like if they had something like, champions can flow from between brands, or like, I mean, even like when they had the wild card 2 years ago, like that, at least that was like at first it was like a good faith. It was a good faith like explanation for why this stuff was happening or whatever else, and then like eventually it just got like, oh well, it's 5 people, then it's 6 people, then it's 4 people, then it's okay, yeah, so y'all just having your cake and eating it too. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like just get rid of the brand split. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. And maybe in that
when you think about it, like, to be honest, like I love those SmackDown pay-per-views from 2016, but like the company as a whole, or the TV shows as a whole, like, are less good ever since they moved to the brand split.
Oh, 100%. Like, there was because I remember when that happened, because I was reviewing the shows with Byrne before we got picked up by Wrestling Headlines. And one of the things that was, like, you just realised was that somehow only one show could be decent. And I don't know how you can do that. Like, Smackdown in 2016 was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. Then, in 2017, Smackdown was awful, because that was the Jinder run. And with matches with Randy Orton. Then the Raw side got a little bit better as they heated up Seth Rollins. And it was just kind of like, were they heating up Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, The Miz at that time? And then after that, like, they do the shakeup or whatever else in 2018, and then like you have Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, and Becky Lynch and Charlotte basically like carry SmackDown into being the better brand. Then at that time, and Asuka as well, and then like I don't even know what happened after that with at 2019. I can't even tell you what's better. It's probably SmackDown because they moved over to. Yes, to say the reason 2019 sticks out for me, because this is peak. Finally, WWE have reached that part where, because the way I described it is, it's like telling a story to a kid, where you're making it up as you go along, and sometimes you get carried away with it yourself. You're like, oh well, I don't know what's going to happen next. Just to tell the story, I'll tell you the story about Owl School. I don't know what's going to happen, but the thing that hit me with WWE was with that draft in 2019. They'd essentially done that. Like, they did not know enough ahead of time what they were going to do. So they changed people around, and then the next week realised they didn't want to do that. I was like, oh wait, no, that was a bad idea. So all of these different reasons why people could be on different brands, why people were moving back. You got trades that happened and then were reversed, or a different trade was then done to the other one. Like, for me, that's just because they didn't think about it ahead of time. They either thought about it on the week, or they did the telling a kid story to a kid style, and just on the day just made it up, and then suddenly realised, oh crap. And they've not done a good draft for me since, because like anyone who becomes somewhat established on a show just gets shifted round, and then look at KO and Seth Rollins, like the drafts consecutively, they just move to the other show, and that's happened with so many people. They become established on one show, then just shift back. So there's no collection of people that you kind of associate with a brand. Like with Raw, you would have probably associated Triple H, Shawn Michaels with the John Cena with the Raw side, just because they didn't move. So when they did move, it felt like a big deal, because it's like 4 or 5 years between one of them shifting, which was a big deal.
Yeah. And I mean,
that's easy. I mean,
for a while. Yeah, I'm with you, and I feel like for a while, like, you could say that there wasn't, like, you had AJ, like, there were like 1 or 2 people you could say that with, right? Like, for a while, like, Becky Lynch and AJ Styles on SmackDown, like, that was a thing. Like, they were there for years. Like, Roman was on Raw for years. Seth had been on Raw for years, and then, like, once they swapped, because of the Fox deal, they made, SmackDown the A show because they had to. Then they had to move Roman to SmackDown, and then like it kind of got wonky after that, where it's like nothing really matters. Like, you just know that Roman and Sasha Banks more or less are just going to be on SmackDown always. Yeah,
which is, it's kind of it devalues the draft and the brand split, and now you've got people on different brands where they'll just bring them over for a feud or for a match, and it happens so regularly. It's like, well, it's fine to abandon it. Like, the other product is white hot and has a lot of guys, and 2 different shows, a lot of guys, and there's no brand split. It's just kind of seamlessly kind of works together in a continuous run of hype, which works really, really well.
Can you imagine if AEW had like 4 singles belts, male singles belts?
It would be crazy.
Can you imagine if they had 2 tag titles? Like, not trios. I want that trio.
I know what you mean,
imagine if they had like 2v2 tag belts. Like, why?
It would
just
be too many. It would be overloaded with stuff. And Yeah, for me, that's been a massive hindrance to the WWE in terms of the draft, and then they moved it to right next to Survivor Series, so you have the draft,
Yep.
and then they're really loyal for one of the brands, even though they've only been on it for like 2 weeks.
4 weeks or something like that. Yeah.
So then they started delaying it. They do the draft, and then the draft doesn't come into effect until a different night, like a month later. I'm just like,
Was this the first year where that happened?
the second. They did it the year before.
Oh wow.
But
Wow.
but that was because it was during quite for like the whole pandemic era. I feel like I'm a lot more forgiving in terms of like the weirdness that was happening. Just in my head, I kind of for that whole time, I'm just kind of like, you know what, the shows were crap.
Are you tricking yourself into thinking that like they're being hamstrung by COVID jail?
More the plans were changing so incredibly often during that time that
Fair enough.
if a planned thing like that was just a little bit convoluted and weird, I'm fine with it. But the fact they did the exact same thing this year, like there's no,
There you go.
yeah,
Yep.
they just liked the idea for some reason. They thought that cycle worked. Of you do the draft, then you do Survivor Series, then it comes into effect, and then you go to Saudi Arabia. It's like, wait, no, that's way too much. That's way too much. Yeah, I know the idea in the head is then you get 2 hyped shows instead of just the one for the draft. You then get the draft hype show, and then you get the draft kick into effect. But in my head, I'm just like, no. But the first show after the draft automatically was hyped anyway. Like, you didn't need to do a separate thing of, oh, it's coming into effect, guys. Isn't this going to be exciting? This guy's coming over to this show. It's like, but also the big thing is this is where I feel like I'm a bit more forgiving. And I know we're meant to be talking about Inner Circle versus 2.0 Daniel Garcia, but
I mean, we may as well talk about this instead of that because, like, I mean, that
yeah,
match is there. Like, the only thing worth talking about is the story of like Santana and Ortiz are being dicks to Jericho.
Yeah, we can get to that. And this will be like the time that would have filled us talking about the match itself.
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of I feel when I say forgiving, what I mean is because I understand how WWE writes. If there's a gap, they can revert the bad decisions they made. Essentially, like I was saying with the shake-up and everything, you avoid the wild card. You avoid the wild card if you give yourself a month to change what you've said on the show, just to revert changes round or make some swaps and trades between brands till it's finalised like a month later. Like, if you're gonna write it like that, which I'm not a fan of, just plan things out. It's not that difficult. Look what AEW did with the Bryan Danielson run. Like, seriously, it's like, oh my god, how do they do that? They went to all the arenas of the hometown guys. Well, yeah, because they knew they were going to do it. They knew they were going to do it, and then they did it. It's really not that difficult.
And now, and we all think that was supposed to be Moxley that was going to take out all those Dark Order people.
Yeah, then just swapped him.
But they just basically filled the gap, and because he was missing.
Yeah, and it worked perfectly with that. I'm going to kick your effing head in. It worked absolutely perfectly for that. It's just that, for me, it's like currently it makes no sense. It's really weird and it takes away all of the hype for me, especially as they're rotating so many guys around, so no one feels like they belong to any brand. So when they suddenly show loyalty, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter until it suddenly matters in this very specific 2-3 week window. Then it's the biggest reason thing on earth.
Right, and another part about it is like if you look from the lens of like, all right, if this is aspiring to be like these are pro athletes, right? Like pro athletes go to teams, they get traded, they get drafted, and then but they also know that like the wrestling as far as the other people, like it's a fraternity, right? Like, I mean, so like, yeah, they have vendettas against other people, but like as far as like let's go out here and win one for the brand, like this isn't like college sports where like you go to a school and you commit to it and all that kind of stuff, and then you try to win one. It's like, nah, like, like I just got here, I don't care, like whatever. So I mean, I think it's at a weird time of the year, but like I know why they do it is because like they want to have something that as a big thing for the new season of television season or whatever else. So like they put in that late slot, and then you get to Survivor Series. Survivor Series has always been Thanksgiving time or just about November anyway, and then you run into that constant issue, and it's like, here's an idea, like, you guys have more or less been running under the same calendar of events for like a decade. Scrap it and start over. Like keep WrestleMania, like basically like keep your big three pay-per-views, like your Royal Rumbles, your WrestleManias, and your SummerSlams. Scrap everything else and start over, and it would breathe so much more life into the promotion. And you wouldn't. And then also like, even though because it's like I said, like the promotion runs on a schedule like for basically the same schedule for like a decade. You would assume that because that you know where everything's coming and you should be able to plan accordingly, but you can't because Vince McMahon's 76 years old and like I don't know, can't remember anything. So it's like just scrap all of it except for like the things he's absolutely going to take care of. You know he's going to care about Royal Rumble. You know he's going to care about SummerSlam. You know he's going to care about WrestleMania. And like look at how big Money in the Bank is now. Like they're now doing that in a dome now. Like that's like the fourth big pay-per-view, and like they never have any idea of late like who to make as a challenger, who should be the next Money in the Bank people. And it's like this is like your fourth biggest show. How do you not know to get someone hot to be like a person that could just slide in and be Money in the Bank? Like you never figured out. Like they had Otis winning and they're like, give it a Miz instead. We screwed up.
Yeah.
My bad. We know this was coming, even though like it's always like right before SummerSlam. Like it's been like that for a decade, but it caught us by surprise. Caught us lacking. Like come on, man.
Yeah. I realised this could be like talking about the state of WWE. Like, no, I did this show on Tuesday.
Okay. Yes. Now, so let's get back to AEW.
Also, Dan in the chat are saying that he's here to hear us talk about how Red Velvet is the best female wrestler of all time. Like, we'll get to it.
I'm sorry, what?
I sense a little bit of sarcasm, but we'll see.
Is there someone that we know that said that?
Dan Alizing. Jesus Christ, I can't read. Do you know a Dan? Do I know a Dan? Am I just forgetting someone I know?
We'll get to it when we get to it.
We've got a few segments to go before we get there.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get to it.
So Eddie versus Jericho is basically the point of the Inner Circle versus 2.0 Daniel Garcia. As I said before, the thing I really, really enjoy is Eddie just wants to beat up Daniel Garcia, and people keep stopping him from being able to beat up Daniel Garcia, and that's pretty much Eddie's entire beef. And now he's going after Jericho. And I love the idea of him, like the words from Eddie from 2-3 weeks ago are still ringing true in the ears of Santana and Ortiz, and now you're seeing it play out in front of them. Like, why are they fighting the bosses' battles yet again? Well, they want to go for the tag titles. Why are they fighting these chumps in 2.0? And I kind of like that. I like that, seeing it play out. Doesn't mean this match was really anything to call home about. Like, yeah, it was decent. It got over the angle. And it will progress the angle, and it served its purpose rather than being super entertaining spot. But it was also in, like, I'll call it the post-incredible ladder match death spot. It's not really, the crowd are a bit tired. Like, it's fine. Yeah.
I mean, they were more into Wardlow destroying those two guys.
Oh yes, which kind of says a lot. It's like, oh, I can't go in too harshly. But the match with Wardlow, they were really hot for, and that was right after. Great stuff. Great. They're doing Wardlow really well. And I saw somebody say that Hook's booking was essentially Goldberg's booking. And I'm just like, no. Like, it's not. This is, if anything, the Hook booking is going to show you how they probably should have done... When I say should have done Goldberg, they still did it really, really well and jumped on the sensation. Well, that's pretty much the only comparison, is they were both sensations. And both the companies went all in on them, following them becoming a sensation, because that makes business sense to do that. Aside from that, the comparisons immediately stop. Like, there's no similarity whatsoever in terms of their styles, in terms of their wrestling ability, their character, the actually direct ways they're being booked. Like, the only similarities that they're sensations that are being jumped on by the promotion. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I'm with you. And, like, to be quite honest, like, when you look at also Jay being 25-0 now, it's like... they just book people strong in AEW. It's fine. Like,
because that means when
I understand. Like, the Goldberg thing is a singular place and time thing. Like, that will never happen ever again. And I understand like the idea of wanting to make Lightning strike twice, but like ain't gonna happen, bro. Like, Goldberg in 1998 was the second biggest star in pro wrestling. Second, The Rock was around. Like, it's not the same thing. Like, Hook and like, I like Hook. I don't love Hook the way other people do. I like him, but like even so, like fundamentally, it's just different. Like this dude is beating the hell out of you with judo moves and judo throws and judo takedowns and fighting for arm bars and chokes. Like Goldberg had this much of that in his game. The rest of his game was power and soap and throwing people around and tackling the shit out of them. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. Speaking of power and throwing people around, in 2 weeks we've got a Texas death match, which was made official via a great promo. It's lovely hearing Jake Roberts' voice again. So happy that he's back. Yeah, a really strong promo. I loved Hangman's reaction. He was like, "Oh, I'm hearing that the match with Lance Archer is going to be a Texas death match." A what?
What?
Yeah,
Yes.
what? That's great. Amazing reaction.
I ended up getting a copy of the show to rewatch the main event. Like I made sure while I was going through it to go see that little part where he goes, "What?" Because like it's a meme. Like I'm gonna clip that and put it in my meme in a second. But yeah, it was great. Like it's gonna be. I once I saw this is gonna happen or thought it was gonna happen, like I'm up for it because like I think Paige at his best wrestling physical matches and people in like hosses or whatever else. Like like we mentioned earlier, like the Wardlow match he had last year, in the fall. Like I want one of that, but like Texas Death Match, like I'm actually excited for this match.
That's reminded me, and I never did clip Rich going, "Jesus is watching." I really meant to. I don't know if somebody else did it.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, Christ is watching. Rich will have to send it to you. I think someone clipped it and sent
awesome.
it to him.
It's like, I need that meme, especially for Twitter. It's like, it's very, very useful. Anyway, also on this Friday on Rampage, it's a Jungle Party. Christian and Matt Hardy trading words on behalf of Jungle Express and Private Party. Yeah, that should be a really fun match, and another showcase of AEW's awesome young talent. It's all on display in that match. When you look across the champions as well, the pillars are slowly becoming more and more cemented, and you're seeing these young stars all rise. And somebody raised the point that the critique of, I mean, it was always a bad faith take anyway, but the critique of, AEW is just relying on former WWE guys. Awesome time for me to have a slip up and accidentally call WWE. What the point of AEW, like, AEW is just former WWE guys, and like, well, if you watch the show, you know that's clearly not the case, and you know why these WWE guys are there just by watching the show. It's very, very evident. But the thing of, but the former WWE guys are only the champions, and then I think both of us in the past have just been like, no, they're clearly in early champions to help establish the brand with names you know. Then they'll shift to names that they've built, and we're at that built point. It's only been 3 years, and not one champion's a former WWE person, which I saw somebody on the comment of that post. They're just like, you've taken a very specific moment in time when there happens to be no former WWE champions in AEW, and I'm like, pretty certain the future's going to be stronger and stronger in that camp. Like, it's not a snatch moment in time, it's all by design. It's the entire point. They've already told you who the next champions are going to be. So it's kind of like, you know who they're going to be. Obviously I'm more laughing at bad faith takes who clearly don't watch the show. So it's very evident when you make comments like that. It's just, because we know who the champions are because they've told us. So,
right. And another thing that should stick out, like, and people are saying that, like, the moment in time thing. It's like, okay, well, like, explain it where, like, Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, like, the New Japan WWE guys, right? Like, explain how, like, they were off TV for a long ass time, like, in this winter, and, like, the rating, like, got better.
Oh, well,
or stabilized.
The rating today was 1.1 million. Which is a slight growth from last week. Which is, we all know Danhausen's a draw immediately. That's what that means. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Also,
like Danhausen's a draw, 2.0's a draw. Like, trying to think who else has been on TV in the last long while. Just like, they have, like, to start out this year, like, they have thrown people out there, and it has been the opposite of star-studded for compared to previous AEW Dynamites and Rampages, and it's like the rating still is what it is. It's not. It doesn't go down. Like quarter to quarter that changes, of course, but like as far as the whole show, like it's not the same. So like what are we gonna say now? Like, what is it? You tell me. Like, I think people will just like the show and is competent. They'll tune in and they'll watch it. And if there's something really big, they might tune in a little bit more. But it does what it does. It's going to do 1 million.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to probably stay around there. Also, Dan, with referencing a point, I did forget to put in my notes where Jungle Boy just started dissing Mark Henn. Just like, your watch is fake.
Yes, your watch is fake.
Your watch is fake, and I'm going to beat your ass. Something like that.
Yeah. I do like the visual of, on one side you have Private Party, you have Matt Hardy. On the other side you have Jurassic Express, and you have Christian. And it's like, in a way, it's almost like watching what was it, the new? Well, I can't remember the name of the Hardys with what's his name? Doc Hendricks. What's his real name? Michael Hayes.
Oh, Michael. Yeah.
It's almost like that picture, except it's like, from a veteran, familiar tag team, like basically being the mouthpiece for these young guns. Like, and they're both now the hillside and face side, and like obviously like that's why they took that shot. When they're on the staircase and they're across from, they're being, on one side is a rail, dividing the two. Like, so I like the present, or the visual, or the symbol, the symbolism of that, and like, yeah, like I expect a really good match because to be quite honest with you, ever since Private Party turned heel and joined HFO, like I had kind of been like down in the dumps of like kind of what they do. Like they just wrestle like normal old heels or whatever else, and like as opposed to like that vibrant team dynamic team that they were at the beginning of Dynamite's run. So like getting them in there with like a contemporary team in a big spot, like maybe they'll be able to shake some of that off and kind of show you like how great and promising they were at the beginning.
Oh yeah, 100%. Giving them a spotlight like this will be huge, will be awesome. There are other matches for Rampage that were announced, but I'll get to those later. Because first, it's CM Punk. He's dressed to fight. He's getting the crowd to chant MJF's name to try and convince the man to come out and have a fight with him. The added incentive of, I've got his scarf, but I googled it, and he can get like a whole pack of them for like $12. So, freeze it. And of course, he comes out wearing a scarf, like a different one. It's just like, these don't have much value. Like, it's fine. And yes, and one little touch I did like was MJF came out, but at first he was not addressing Punk. He was addressing the crowd. He never, for that entire time he's talking about having a match in Chicago next week, he didn't once really look at Punk until right at the end, where he's talking about beating Punk in his hometown. He was talking to Punk, but in the way of he was addressing the arena. Like, I'm going to do this to Punk, to that, and I really, as a heel, that's awesome. To just not look at the guy. It's a great way of showing that you're disrespecting him. Hyping himself up to announce the two of them won't be facing in crappy Cleveland. Instead, it will happen next week in Chicago. Maxwell promising to beat Punk in his hometown. Real great move for a heel. It was thought this might happen for a little while, but it's great to see this there now as well. Also, awesome inclusion, bringing up that this was in the same town that Punk walked out of Raw back in 2014. It's like, time is a big circle. I really love that. That was awesome. Punk playing babyface to the crowd, hyped up saying that they love him because he keeps getting back up. Can't say that to a heel with a stable. Let's put that to the test. The straight up beatdown from the Pinnacles, FTR and Spears beat the man down. And this is where we got our awesome Wardlow character moment. More reluctant when MJF asked him to hit the powerbomb. And the focus all on MJF and Punk, but still giving time to build up the muscle man's big turn. Great, it's awesome. I really love it. I've said awesome way too much, but that's because this was such a solid segment. He did everything so perfectly. The ending point being Maxwell sitting cross-legged to deliver his cross-legged on top of Punk to deliver his final bomb, promising to end him next week. So, it's so good. So good, James.
Yeah, obviously, CM Punk, sitting cross-legged on the top of the ramp with the pipe bomb, like him doing this on his chest, which is also like a callback to when Shibata won the New Japan Cup, where Kenta did it to him a couple years ago. Like it all fits together really nice. So it's just wonderful. It really is. Yeah. I gotta say, CM Punk is just fantastic as a promo. Like obviously it's like it's like saying like, well, yeah, I think Kobe Bryant was really good at basketball. No shit, but it's so good to have him back. It's so good that to hear somebody like be defined and believe or know what they stand for and that sort of thing and that kind of baby facery. Like I love it. I always like those. I always like the stand for what you believe in type of baby faces. I suppose I just out here just to have you guys love me, and I love you guys. I'm happy to be here. Like I like somebody that has some fire and tell you what they believe in. Like that's the reason why I really like the Cody run it first at the start of the company or start of Dynamite. But him and MJF go together really well, and this is like their third Dynamite talking segment together at least. And I just wonder how they're going to pull the trigger on the Wardlow thing. Like obviously people wanted it right then and there. Right there, they kind of felt like they wanted them to pull the trigger on the Wardlow thing, where just basically like says I'm not going to participate in the beatdown. Like it's you want to be 4-1. Like come on, it didn't happen here, but like it's going to happen, and when it does, like it's gonna like all this is tying together like pretty well. Like I next week, you think that opens? I'm pretty sure that opens, right? Because they tend to put their biggest thing on first.
That's about what I was about to say. Yeah, they tend to put on the biggest matches to kick off the show, like Hangman Danielson. I feel like that's probably what they're gonna do. But
yeah. Okay, so I'm ready for it. Like they've done some great work. They really have to get to this point.
Got me all in to the point where I would be fine with them doing like a BS kind of finish to it, and then you have
to get to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, to get to the pay-per-view, like that's fine. Especially as he can lean into MJF being more WWE, and he has a WWE finish.
Save that for the rest of American Pro Wrestling. No, don't bring that here. Don't bring that nonsense here.
I think it's when I fell in love with the idea of Bryan Danielson defeating all of the baby faces in their hometown. I was like, you can. As MJF teases he's going to go to WWE, he has the WWE finish to a match. It's like CM Punk be like, well, you wanted a taste of the WWE. Here you are.
Oh God.
Anyway, speaking of somebody getting a taste of probably what they shouldn't do, Julia Hart was really excited to accept a challenge from Jade Cargill. So Mark Sterling letting Julia know that Jade Cargill has chosen her as the next challenger. I love this as a heel move because one, Jade Cargill's not even there. She sent her lawyer there, their representative. Two, she gets to say that she's defending her title like a fighting champion. And then three, but she's facing someone like Julia Hart, who's had. I like Mark Sterling's going. You just need to sign this release because of the whole eye thing. She's standing there with an eye patch, half blinded. It's great.
Young, dumb baby face, eager to prove himself. Love it.
Yeah, and you pair that with the heel champion taking advantage of that. Oh, it works so well. We also got the Acclaimed cutting a promo because Anthony Bowens will be facing Moxley on Rampage. We'll go through all the Rampage matches later. It's time for Red Velvet versus legit Layla Hirsch. And for me, this was a decent match between the two. Like, the crowd were quieter for this, but hey, I enjoyed it. Layla Hirsch is way too crisp to not keep my attention. Like, focusing on Velvet's arm whenever she could. Like, the last back down with those awesome suplexes. For me, the heel character fits Layla really well so far. I'm liking this first example of it that we've seen. And just... somebody suggested the idea of a Serena Deeb stable and legit Layla Hirsch being the first person to possibly be in that stable, and I'm just like, I need to drop that idea because that's something I've made up or someone else has made up, and I've taken it in, and it's really, really good. and the gripe I've got with the women's division is in a world designed, a world established by stables, the fact that the women's division doesn't have a single one. It sticks out to me, and so in my head I'm making up women's stables just because there aren't any. So I need to stop doing that because I like Layla Hirsch's character so far. I don't want to drive myself to disappointment if it just continues as a decent character rather than being like a standout in the stable.
I thought this match was okay. I did not think it was necessary. I didn't think it was like. It's not a match I would give 3 stars. I'll put it to you. I thought that at times Layla missed with her striking, which is rare for her. And I thought that the beginning was kind of slow to get into, but like it did pick up by the time they got to the end. And the crowd gave it no favors at the start, but like they kind of rallied the crowd at the end, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a weird thing where like Layla had her beat and then like got her up again to try to inflict more damage. I thought that was a weird thing because like I understand that like she has a great record on paper, but it's like when a lot of the ancillary stuff in AEW is like, oh, this person's won like 15 matches in a row. Like I haven't seen this person on TV. Like I've seen this person on TV one time and they lost. They literally got pinned. It's been weeks since I've seen them on TV. So like that's one of the things they got to do. I say the AEW has to do a better job of. That's one thing that kind of slips through the cracks with them is like they present people to you and they're like, look at this record. I'm like, yo, when did these wins happen? It's like at the start, like with Eddie Kingston, it was like, yo, all I see this dude ever do is lose. Like, how is this dude like still in the top 5? So yeah, but anyway, yeah, I thought it was an okay match, not a good match, but definitely not a bad match. It was just somewhere in the middle. But I expect them. I expect that the Statlander match to be much have more heat because Statlander more. I think she's more popular than Red Velvet or Layla. So
100%.
They've been building towards this thing and like I think they have a really good match because like they're both strong as hell for their frames, both of them. So you're going to see some really cool stuff.
Speaking of, we're going to see some really cool stuff. House of Black telling Pac that just like death, they are inevitable. Like bloody hell, lads. Both in the fact that we're going to get this match, and the House of Black they're not beating the bush with that. No, we're inevitable like death. It's like the closing line of their first promo to him. It's like, good God. Yeah, it's like he's blind, lads. You've probably got a foot up here. Be all right. But yeah, I everything about this screams that it's going to be awesome. Cannot wait.
Yeah,
cannot wait.
I mean, it's Paige and it's Paige and not Paige. I'm sorry. It's Pac and it's Penta. Like they're gonna have a great match. Like I mean, you could pull any of the two combination of Death Triangle out there, but obviously Phoenix is like a month out or whatever it is with him with his arm. But yeah, they're gonna have a great match. I don't remember what else was mentioned is going to be on next week's Dynamite, but like it's going to be a great show. Like it's Chicago. They love doing great. They love having big matches in Chicago. This is one of them definitely.
And actually, well, the only two matches that have been announced are Pac and Penta versus House of Black and CM Punk versus MJF. So
okay, well there you go.
Those two alone. That's going to be really, really good. After this, we got the AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker, DMD, Pro Wrestling Illustrated 2021 #1 female wrestler celebration. My word, she had all the accolades just to really hype up how amazing she is. And a women's promo in the middle of the ring with no interruption. It's like, oh, yes, loved it. Great, good to see this. I want this more. I want more of this. Just let them get the character stuff over without somebody walking in and delivering a flat promo or an attack out of nowhere. Like surprise attack from the front is my favourite thing in wrestling because it makes no sense. And easily, I don't think anyone is going to be Swerve in NXT doing a surprise attack from the front in a forklift. Like, it's bravo. Like, you're not going to beat that because the logistics at play there is like, how do I even make this make sense? It's too good. It's too wild. I love it. Anyway, Britt's promo was essentially me sitting there going, hey, a sports reference. Not really knowing what I'm talking about. I know she's Pittsburgh. I know they're in Ohio. It's Cleveland Browns in Ohio.
Yeah. Like one of it's one of the more traditional feuds in NFL history. The Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're kind of close. Like it's East Ohio versus West Pennsylvania, so they're kind of close geographically. The Browns used to be like the team of the 50s, and the Steelers came to prominence mostly in the 70s. So like you kind of had that regional thing, which also helps for like sports rivalries here in this country. I'm sure it works over in real football over a year over at. But yeah, like you have that. The Browns have they've been one of the worst ran franchises of like the last 50 years of American football. So like, but the Steelers have always been like pretty consistently good my entire lifetime. So like, so Britt is from basically like the rival that is like the dominant part of the rivalry. So like she's in basically like enemy territory, and like they have an inferiority complex, so she keeps bringing up Pittsburgh and like all their success over the last like 50 years of American sports, whether it was like the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Steelers, and like the Browns, like, or sorry, Cleveland, they literally only have like one championship in any major sports like since the 50s. So so like she gets to like, you know, she gets to come out there with like the Penguins logo on and be from Pittsburgh, and then also, you know, at the end the dismount is like the fans in Pittsburgh, like they carry around a yellow towel. And like that's kind of like a symbol of your fandom, is like the yellow towel for Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, like at the end, she basically took a flag that was modeled after that towel that the fans split around. That's why she had it around her back. And it's like she just won like a gold medal for like her country in the Olympics. So that's so like she was full on trolling. I thought she did a really good job with it. I thought it was really strong at the start. I thought it kind of tailed off because like there's only so much meat on that bone, like making fun of Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield is like their starting quarterback for the Browns, and like he had a kind of a high fandom of being like their savior for the Browns, but like I think this year people kind of realized like he's not gonna be it. So people are kind of like, so like the Heat after getting like one joke or two jokes off like works, but like once you go to like the 6th and 7th, it has less of effect. It's much like, you know, the kendo stick shots or weapon shots we were talking about earlier in the show. Like, all right, we get it, 1 or 2's effective, stop there. But she kept going. But you know, it went a little long. But I thought like it was refreshing to see her back here in like, you know, shitting on a crowd, because like for a while she hadn't been doing that, and it kind of felt like a lot of the same for like the last few months. So I liked it. I really did. As far as the, you know, the PWI stuff, is just, you know, the hokey heel stuff. Like, look how popular I am.
Yeah,
you know, it's fun.
Britt gloats into camera as the crowd has their moment chanting for insert local sports team. She's not going to settle for just the 1 year. She's here to run the decade, which is like an awesome heel champion promo. I love it. Yeah. After that, Vicky Guerrero was screaming to grab our attention and hand the mic over to Nyla Rose ranting at Ruby Soho. And that maybe that match will get added next week, because it wasn't announced for the Rampage matches. So that might be in Chicago. And I mean, Soho will get a really big pop in Chicago. So yeah,
she's from Iowa? She's from Indiana. Yeah, so she'll like, you know, that's like Indiana is like bordering on Illinois, so, and Chicago's like close to Indiana, like very close. So she'll get some regional love, much in the same way that like Seth, you know, who's from Iowa, gets regional love in Chicago as well, and he's a Bears fan. Bears is the NFL team in Chicago, so yeah, like it'll be some regional thing. And like it was funny to me how you know, typical heel Nyla like complaining like, you know, I got cheated, and it's like, you didn't get cheated, like you blew off Ruby's shoulder, and then like she still somehow managed to figure out a way to win. Like you lost fair and square, but like you're a heel, so like it was funny to me, because, you know, typical heel. So it's no one else's fault. It's everyone else's fault except for the heel.
Yeah, Nyla does that really well. Anyway, so we talked about Dynamite Chicago next week, but the final one of the matches for Rampage this Friday are Moxley versus Bowens, FTR versus Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson in a rescheduled match, TBS Championship, Jade Cargill versus Julia Hart, and the AEW World Tag Team Championship, Jurassic Express versus Private Party, as the young talent seemingly are taking over this show pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, it's still FTR and Moxley, but with the younger talent holding titles now, it's going to become more and more commonplace. Seeing these guys taking over the shows. A strong Rampage with an even stronger Dynamite set for Chicago. Really, really strong. As they will look to build momentum and hype for Revolution. Because we're at that point where we're speculating matches, but because it's still January, we've not finished January yet, and the pay-per-view isn't until the 1st of March. I think it's like a week or two later than it was. We've not quite
It's the
hit that
6th.
hype.
I'm going to the show, so I know it's the 6th.
Oh, awesome. Nice and easy to remember. Yeah, so we've still got a fair way to go until we get there. Yes, February's shorter, but we haven't really hit the hype wheel of Revolution yet. I didn't even realise the pun of the hype wheel and Revolution. I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, thank you to James for coming on to talk about the AEW. What am I, Bret Hart? Thank you for coming on.
I did the same thing. On One Nation Radio. Like, I called it the Survivor Series. I was like, oh, I'm Bret Hart. I'm Bret Harding.
God damn it, Bret. Why do you do this? Well, I will be back on Saturday to talk about the Royal Rumble, which is, you can't Bret Hart, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
So I'll be back live immediately after the pay-per-view to talk about it really nice and early. But now I've got lighting, you won't be able to tell as much the horrible state I'm in. So James, do you want to plug all of your stuff before we say goodbye?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JamesBoyd87. I also do the podcast I just mentioned, One Nation Radio. You can find that on Twitter at One Nation Radio. And we more or less cover AEW, some WWE, big events, Stardom, New Japan, pretty much anything that comes upon the board. This week we actually covered the World on GCW. Rich watched the show and he was dismayed by about them having their biggest show and the most eyes on it, and that's what they gave us. So stuff like that, any big things happen in the wrestling world, we'll talk about it on a weekly basis, so check us out.
And am I doing anything on Tuesday? I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at the damn Implicat. Also, you can follow me on Twitch at the Implications with 2 S's. You can follow James on Twitter at JamesBoyd87 and One Nation Radio as well at One Nation Radio. Want to keep up with that podcast too. Anyway, with that, for me, a really solid episode of Dynamite with an incredible opening ladder match and a really enjoyable main event with a genuinely unexpected debut. And there's I can't really complain too much when a debut gets that big of a pop and reaction from me. Really enjoyed it. Obviously, might have been expected a Johnny Gargano, and I loved the fact that his SmackDown name was Danhausen, which is brilliant. So good. So I mean, they did chant Johnny Wrestling in the middle of the Orange Cassidy match. There were signs, there were Gargano signs. Like, I was talking to Rich about this. I don't think it was recorded anywhere, but like Gargano's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. And I said to him, like, if he's going to show up in AEW, like, everyone's pixeling Cleveland. This was a couple weeks out, and I was thinking to myself, like, well, if he shows up in Cleveland, then you have to almost immediately like throw him into a program, and like you look at what they was essentially set up for the card for Revolution. I don't know if he's the right fit to put him in there in a match right now. Like, you're probably better off if he shows up, given also with the Candace pregnancy going on. Like, he might be best suited to actually show up in Orlando for Revolution because Orlando, NXT, Full Sail, all that, that's all still there. He's still located there. Like, that's probably the best place to put him logistically, and also integrating him into AEW's television and programming going forward, and like define where he fits after that. So like, I wasn't necessarily shocked or disappointed that he didn't show up. It just would have been cool. Yeah, and for me, the Danhausen thing more than made up for it, and it's taken all of the buzz.
That was so silly.
Oh, it's not going to get less silly from here. It's a great example.
Dynamite is.
Really look what. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated. Never take it for granted. And I will be back for the Royal Rumble this Saturday. Who is getting their ticket to WrestleMania? And will we be sitting here? Would I be sitting here at like 5 a.m, disappointed, thinking it's fine or whatever? It's so up in the air. Who knows? It's one of the most unpredictable Royal Rumbles, and I mean that in terms of just the title matches as well, not just the Rumbles themselves. There's so many different roads, and so many that I personally feel like are the complete wrong roads to take. But we'll see. Oh yeah. And I was doing the show with Rance like 2 weeks ago, talking about the good in WWE. I was just like, you've got an opportunity to. I don't mean literally, but to San Martino a champion, as in solidify a champion and have him be have that run for a really long time. I don't mean San Martino length. I just mean WWE don't really have solidified champions in terms of like a really long period of dominance. Reigns is the first person in a really long time they could legit do it with, and by that I mean that even just one more year as champion, or at least to SummerSlam, because they've not built anybody up to any level to defeat him. So, and Brock Lesnar just means we're doing the same cycle again. So, yes.
It's funny that you mentioned the San Martino thing, because like WWE was built off the face of like San Martino, Hogan, Austin, Rock, Savage, and Cena, and it's like they all had these super long runs, but like they were all doing this as baby faces, heroes. Like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, like they've recently gotten this kick of like, hey, like we're a company that does nothing but disappoint our fans by giving them an overabundance of heat. Let's you know what? Let's make all of our top champions, the biggest stars, heels. Let's make Becky Lynch a heel. Like I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened to the DNA of this company, but like this is not the company I grew up watching and loving. And like Roman Reigns, like you're saying, like give him the San Martino run, like. But he was a hero. He's a despicable villain for 2 years on top. Okay, sounds depressing. Sign us up. Cool.
Oh, you haven't had enough Dick Togo running finishers? Oh, yeah, for years. The BS reason for him to retain. It's going to get worse and worse.
I think it's unfair to do that. Like Dick Togo in House of Torture is so much worse than like whatever Roman Reigns is doing. Much worse. Like, it's unfair to Roman Reigns as a man to say that like they're doing it as bad as Dick Togo and them are. It's just.
I generally count Roman Reigns right now as like one of the. I know it's an AW review, but I'm saying Roman Reigns generally is for me in the one or two spot in terms of like at the top right now, and for him to lose this Saturday at SummerSlam. For me, is a huge mistake, but they might do it, and he might win the Rumble to set up a match against Lesnar. It's just like you don't need to do this. You don't need it. I suggested the idea because it's in Saudi Arabia. The idea of Brock Lesnar in the Elimination Chamber. That said, I suddenly remembered. Wait, Brock's not going to take any of those bumps. No, of course not. But I like the idea, just the advertising idea of, because of course people are skeptical about the Saudi shows anyway, but if you say, well, Lesnar's in the chamber, suddenly there's a big advertising reason to maybe even check it out. Like have Big E win the Rumble and face Lashes, it's fine. Like that's fine. Yes, Big E has not been hyped up at all since losing the title. Yes, he's not been on TV for 2 or 3 weeks. But it's WWE. None of that matters. It's fine. Just give him the win. Just say he's on a roll. They do that all the time. Like they were saying, the NXT champions, they've got a lock on this division, and they look like they've not defended the title since they won them in like November or something ridiculous. So yeah, when you say they've got it on lock, yeah, they're not having any challenges. Is that the meaning of lock that you meant? They've generally locked them off. No one can challenge for them. Anyway, I realised I could go on a massive tangent and I'm meant to be wrapping up the show. So, I will be covering the Royal Rumble this Saturday. I'm hyped for it. I love the Royal Rumble. It's my favourite WWE pay-per-view, without question. I always have fun with it, even if I don't enjoy the actual Royal Rumble itself. Like I personally didn't massively enjoy the Royal Rumbles of 2019, where Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins won, but they got the right winners. So it's a toss-up sometimes when they get it completely wrong. Like, worst case scenario, those back-to-back years of 2014-15, we can't get any lower than that. Like, you can always deliver an average one, like 2017, or one that just doesn't... For me, the clusterfuck in GCW has really shown how to make that kind of idea of a match just feel just convoluted and by the end tiresome and nothing. It's just like the name fits perfectly, because at the end of it you go, oh yeah, that was a bit of a clusterfuck. It's just like, you're not saying that in a positive way, but then the next year I'm excited for it again. I don't know how they do it. It's really weird, makes no sense. Royal Rumble generally sometimes is incredible, sometimes it's and rarely is like a bad kind of delivery, which we got in 2014 and 15. And I reckon, well, I was about to say, oh, my main light's just gone off. That's interesting. Right. That's probably telling me it's time for... It's turned back on now. Right.
Yeah, time to go home.
Yeah, time to go home. Wrap this up. I've only got...
Yeah,
I can
time
move this
to
light
hit
to
your
my
finish,
face.
kid.
So I have no idea what this looks like because I got a delay on the stream I see on YouTube. So anyway, I will be back on Saturday next. That's it. Yes. Oh, that looks awful. Seen it happen. Yeah. Anyway, I say goodbye and thank you for listening and watching. And James says,
Later.